Alright, everybody, I'm very excited to talk about this Ninja Turtle episode, that being the Manhattan Project. I think the show took a hiatus after the Rat and Man episode, so we had to wait a bit, but then spring came and then we finally got the Manhattan Project. And it's an hour special. I know it's put into part 1 and 2, but hey, let's just review it as one episode. Like an hour special. And so this episode is basically, we have two stories kind of going on. It's basically where there's been some earthquakes going on in New York, and the Turtles are trying to investigate what's causing that, and they think it's the Krang, and of course it is. And also they're dealing with the Foot Clan, since Karai is still on the mindset that Shredder is her father and not Splinter, even though Splinter is the father, as revealed in earlier episodes. And I like the storyline. I think it's so well written. Like, we're rooting for Leo to tell Karai the truth, but she just won't budge with it until later episodes. Spoiler. And we get this cool fight. We get the return of Razar, finally. And it's a very fun fight, but then it ends with Leo getting crushed by bricks. We almost thought he was down, but nah, he's fine. And so, meanwhile, Casey and April are investigating what the Krang are doing, and Casey finally figures out what the Krang are, and it looks like they're going through portals, and then the portal closes, and then April and Casey then take it to the turtle lair, and then the turtles, they go into the portal, but an earthquake happens, causing the portal to close, and we get some cool stuff. We see a dimension into Dimension X, and we get, here's a spoiler, we get a cameo of the 80s Turtles. We even, at the end, spoilers, we get the returning cast of the 80s Turtles in this episode. Like, these writers knew what they were talking about. Now, I know they won't cross over again till, season 4, but it was very refreshing to see them. And I love the part where Mikey's like, why do we look like dorks? And then Raph's like, is that supposed to be April? And then Donnie's just like falling in love with the 80s April. It's very funny. But then it's interrupted by the Krang, and then they throw Leo, Raph, and Mikey back to New York, and they capture Donnie, April, and Casey. And then the rest of the episode for them is like they're trying to investigate the worms. And meanwhile, during Shredder's lair, we get a new recruit. Now, we saw him in the intro, and we see the debut of Tiger Claw. So I really love Tiger Claw. He is a very good character, a good henchman. Like, you never thought there'd be a tiger mutant in Ninja Turtles, but there is. And apparently Tiger Claw loses a lot of limbs. Like, Karai calls out that he has no tail, and he's just like, he will pay the price. This doesn't get revealed later in season 4 how he lost his tail. But anyway, we stick with it. But you almost feel bad for Tiger Claw. But then again, he's a bad dude. He's a henchman of Shredder who do evil things. If you want me to list them, maybe some other time. But all we know is that Tiger Claw is now second in command. And he is a very serious warrior. Like, he doesn't tolerate any, bratish behavior or anything from, Karai. This all starts when the Turtles run into Tiger Claw. They're looking for Mikey and Donnie. Wait, no, I meant Donnie and April and Casey. But instead, they run into Tiger Claw. Mikey's just like, I told her I was going to name him Tiger Claw. And then there's this big fight. It's very cool, but the turtles lose, unfortunately, causing them to call Splinter. And Splinter does come into the rescue, but he gets defeated by Karai stinging him. He did manage to take down Tiger Claw. And we almost are feeling bad because the turtles are about to fall into the furnace. But they're going to be fine. And part 2 opens with Karai looking like she's about to kill the turtles, but even though Leo's still trying to convince her that Splinter's the real father. And so the turtles then go get away, and then Splinter's captured, and then the turtles have to go to the lair. Meanwhile, Donnie, April, and Casey are back in New York, and they try to investigate the worms. But unfortunately, when they sneak into the lair, they're chased by one of the worms, and then the worm literally eats Casey. It was, we almost thought Casey would die. It's but no, we know he wouldn't. I kind of just knew he was gonna be fine. But then after getting advice from Mr. Kurtzman, we see the return of him, which was nice. Donnie and April decide to use salt to take down the worm, since in real life, the only way to take down a worm is using salt. And they even use the salt logo on the salt they use. I felt like saying that because why not? And I think they do take down the worm, and then Casey does get spit out because it was real that he was alive. He called April. Somehow there's signal in the worm, literally. And meanwhile, the turtles decide to go to Shredder's lair, and they even prepare for it because they know if they keep Splinter there, he's gonna die, since Shredder really is desperate to kill Splinter. He almost does. We get this cool scene where Splinter's I do not hide behind a mask from my humanity. And then Shredder's it is because of you that I wear this mask. And it looks like he's about to kill Splinter. But Splinter just the turtles swoop in and rescue Splinter. It was actually cool seeing the turtles in Shredder's lair for once, since I always wanted them to be in Shredder's lair. And Leo goes by himself at first, but then the turtles just rescue Splinter, like I said. And then Splinter just needs to meditate, and then we get this battle with the turtles and the Foot Clan and their henchmen again. And then later, the worm, April and Casey end up closing one of the portals on the worm, and they literally rise it above the city, causing a huge crack in the streets. And they literally, Tiger Claw gets knocked down into the worm, and we almost thought he died, but he'd be back a few episodes later. And so the episode ends with the worm literally in the 80s Turtles world, and then it ends with the 80s Turtles. We even get the return of Cam Clark, Talisman Coleman, Barry Gordon, and Rob Paulson. We obviously know he plays Donnie, but it was very refreshing, like I said, to see them return. Honestly, we could have gotten a reboot show of the 80s Turtles. We didn't, unfortunately. But you never know. Ninja Turtles is popular, and we're getting that cool movie. But it wouldn't happen right away with the 80s Turtles, but people will look back on the 80s shows for pure nostalgia, and it was just flat awesome. And it ends with them saying turtle power. I'm sorry I didn't show a photo of the 80s Turtles. Maybe I'll show it when I put it on iMovie. So, yeah, this episode was really awesome. A lot of great memories with this episode. There was some... I don't think I had any issues with this episode. It was just an overall fun episode. We got one story. I felt like the worm was kind of slow. The plot a little. I cared more about the Splinter stuff, the Shredder stuff, than the worm stuff. That's probably my only nitpick. But they still kept it entertaining. And so I give this episode, why not, a 10 out of 10? 9 out of 10? So I don't know what the next episode is. I think it's Mazes and Mutants. Can't wait to talk about that episode. So with that said, thanks for watching and Turtle Power.